Good morning, everyone. This is Mengni Chen. I am research scientist in University of Cologne and University of Louvain, and this is a paper that is in collaboration of Dr. Wanli from University of Louvain and Paul Baizan from University of Pomba Fabra in Spain, and also Guy Abel from Shanghai University. So today I'm going to give a presentation about human spatial mobility patterns in China under the COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know that the spread of COVID-19 is very closely related to human mobility. And many studies have investigated migration and mobility under natural disasters, but very little research has documented migration and mobility under pandemics. Although there are some recent studies estimating the impact of mobility restriction on the spread of COVID-19 in China, but very few studies have really devoted to demonstrate the exact pattern of mobility under the COVID-19 pandemic in China. So the aim of the study is to demonstrate population mobility before the COVID-19, during the COVID-19, and when the COVID-19 pandemic was brought under control in China. So specifically, the study tries to show the patterns of inflow and outflow at the provincial and city levels, and also try to identify clusters of provinces and cities where mobility changed dramatically. So this is a study which makes use of innovative data that is large-scale online data in mobility, and that is the Baidu migration data. And also in this study, in order to demonstrate the patterns in 2020 COVID-19 period, we treat 2019 as a quasi counterfactual reference year. So let's just have some background information about China and about the COVID-19 in China. So in December 2019, a number of COVID-19 cases emerged in Wuhan City, Hubei province. And this picture gives you an impression about the evolution of COVID-19 in China over January and up to the end of May. So this picture gives you information on the daily increase of COVID-19 cases. So as you see, that it's very clear that the COVID-19 cases increased very, very fast in the January, and it reached to the peak level about February 5th. And since then, it started declining. And although we observe a very dramatic jump in the daily increase of COVID-19 cases in February 12th, it's about 15,000 cases that day, but that is due to the change in the criteria of confirmation for the COVID-19 cases. And by the end of March, that we almost can see it has been brought under control, that the daily increase is very low, about 36 cases, and 35 of which was imported cases. And I would like to highlight that the COVID-19 outbreak coincided with Chinese Lunar New Year holiday. This is very important background for us to understand. So, of course, faced with this rapid transmission of this COVID-19 in China, the central government and the government at the provinces have taken responses. Actually, in China, there are 4 levels of emergency responses to deal with the public health crisis. So the first level is the most strongest, very often includes with measures that is closing down shops, restaurants, and shopping malls, as well as shut down the public transportation. So from this table, it actually gives you information about the specific dates and duration of the public emergency response in the 31 provinces from January to March 2020. that we see the red cells highlight the interval or duration of first level responses. So we see that on January 23, that four provincial government has already taken the first level public emergency that to restrict people's mobility also. And in the following 1 or 2 days, and almost all the government take the first level emergency responses. And we see that over January and February, almost all the provinces in this year state, but by the mid of March or by the end of March, we see that majority of these provinces have downgraded their public emergency response to the second level or to the third level, even to the fourth level. This is kind of government response in this COVID-19 period. And we can understand, or we can very easy to imagine that human mobility is actually very related to this government response, government policy measures in this period. So in order to demonstrate the mobility patterns, these studies make use of Baidu migration data set. And this data set is actually tracing this real-time geolocation mobile phones every day. So it evaluates the travel frequencies and paths between regions. So there are two versions of this data set. The internal version that includes the absolute numbers of daily inflows and outflows. But this is not public available. It's only available to the internal staff of this company. And also, they have provided an external version of this migration data set. This external version is public available, and it provides the daily mobility index, that is the inflow index and outflow index. And this inflow or outflow index are normalized measures of actual mobility. So, and it's actually comparable across provinces and cities. So, regarding the outflow indexes, for example, for each city as an origin, the daily outflow indexes, it provides the daily outflow indexes for the city to the top 100 destination cities. And for each city as a destination, it provides the daily inflow indexes from the top 100 cities of origin. So actually, it's almost capture all the population movements from the city and to the city for that day. So the observation period for this study at the provincial level, we cover 75 days, and it's from January 1st to March 15 in 2020. And for 2019, it covers January 12 to March 28. So the 2 years corresponding each other in terms of lunar calendar. And at the city level, we have a longer observation period, that is 91 days. So for the city level in 2020, it's from January 1st to March 31st. And also for 2019, it's from January 12th to April 12th. So that is the observation period. So I provide you a figure that gives you more clear understanding about the days of the observation. So for simplicity and for consistency, and I use the order of the day to explain. So as you see from this figure that day one, either in 2020 or 2019, it refers to the first day of the observation period. And we see that, as I explained previously, that the COVID-19 coincided with Chinese New Year holiday. So Wuhan lockdown, a travel ban in Wuhan, is day 23. That is January 23 in 2020. And after Wuhan lockdown, that is Chinese New Year Eve, January 24th. And also January 25th is Chinese New Year's Day. Okay, that's the holiday starts begin. And correspondingly, in the bottom vertical line that you see, horizontal line, you see the days or the order of the days observed in the 2019. Okay, this gives an impression about the observation period and about the very crucial events happened in this period. So this study has selected 7 indicators for analysis. The first two are inflow index and outflow index for each provinces and each cities. So these are directly from the website by do migration data. And the third one is built on the first two indicator, that is cumulated net flow index. And the fourth one is mobility stock ratio. So let me just give a very short explanation for this ratio. So as I said before, the COVID-19 coincided with Chinese New Year holidays. So very often in a normal year in China, during this holiday season, there are two travel rush. One is pre-holiday travel rush with people leaving cities back to their hometown for family reunion. And although the other travel rush happens after the holiday, that is post-holiday travel rush. So in the pre-holiday travel rush, that it always starts 2 weeks before the Chinese New Year Eve and ends on the Chinese New Year Eve. So we see this mobility actually accumulated and reached the peak level on day 24th, that is Chinese New Year Eve. Okay, so we take this cumulated net flow index up to day 24 as a denominator, what we call total mobility stock. And we use cumulative net flow index after day 24th as a numerator to calculate the ratio. So the ratio to some extent reflect the mobility stock accumulated pre-holiday, how it actually dissolve itself or clear up itself over the time after the holiday. And the rest three indexes are the differences in inflow index and outflow index and net flow index in 2020 and 2019, the 2 years. So this gives you a summary about the indicators we used. So the provincial indicators have included four indicators that we adopt descriptive statistics and also provides visualization. And for the city level analysis, we covered the last three indicators. We adopted hierarchical cluster analysis and provides visualizations as well. So without further delay, let's looking at the result first.
Mengni, yes. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but can I also give you the 2-minute warning? Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. So just the map gives you information about the three groups of provinces that highlight that they experience different change in mobility patterns. The first group is highlighted in the dark red, that is around the East Coast, more developed regions, and very often it's in-migrated oriented regions. And the second is Central China, and it's relatively less developed regions, and it's often out-migrated oriented in a normal year. And the third group is in the northeast and northwest region of China, is the least developed area in China. So these are the three group of provinces which would demonstrate three different patterns. So without see this picture that provides you inter-provincial mobility in the 31 provinces from day 1 to day 75. I would like to draw your attention to the first two groups because very obviously we see from the third group that there is very modest change in the mobility over time. So to understand these graphs, just give you very short information about the black vertical line is the travel ban on January 23 in Wuhan. And the black vertical line is the downgrading of government measures or policy measures for COVID-19. So very obviously, we see that from the first group of provinces, the inflow index between 2019 and 2020 has a large gap. That 2020 inflow index remained at very low level, and it's only up to day 50 that they started to rebound a bit, and the reversal is very, very slight or moderate. And the second group, I would like to draw your attention to the outflow index that are the two blue lines. We see there is also a big gap in the outflow index in these cities. That in 2020, the outflow is a big gap, but consistently we see that pre the policy government, the government policy, there is no big change between 2020 or 2019. The most big difference is in the first group that their inflow index or inflow is influenced, and for the second group, is the outer flow is influenced very much. So this picture is give you the cumulated net flow index that is very similar message from the previous slides. The first group, we see the cumulated net flow index has dropped down to the bottom by day 23, but it started to reverse back. We see a very strong reversal in 2019, but the reversal is less strong, is much less stronger in 2020. And it means that there is a great delay in people's returning from their hometown back to the cities or provinces for working or for education. And the second picture of the second group, it demonstrates that these provinces are out migration oriented. After the holiday, people will come back to the provinces or cities for educational study, but we observe a very big gap in this cumulative net flow index. It implies that there is a great delay in departure of people who coming back home pre-holiday, but they delay their departure from hometown for a long time. So, just very kind of highlight the message here. For the first group and for the second group, we check the mobility stock ratio reflecting how mobility stock accumulated pre-holiday dissolve itself after the holiday. We see a very quick clearing up in 2019 that by day 55 or day 75 it's almost close to zero or going to negative. But in 2020, we see that day 55 and day 75, for day 55 is almost 50% to 80% that people are still staying in their hometown. Um, Particularly, I would like to see the Hubei provinces where it's the epicenter. The mobility stock ratio doesn't change after the holiday. It remains at 92% over time. So for the city level, I just want to highlight.
Excuse me, Mengni. I think I would want to ask you to come really to a conclusion to give
Yes.
you at least some discussion.
Yes.
Will be a bit short. Thanks. I'm sorry.
Okay. I just hands out in 1 minute. It will be fine. So for the city level analysis, we'll identify which part of the cities that in China is affected severely. So we identify 12 cities that are large, more developed cities or provincial capital cities located in the red area that are most developed, mostly severely affected. And the last three groups that are not that severely affected. So this highlights how severe affected the experiences. So just for the conclusion, we try to identify the clusters and cities where experience varies big change in their mobilities. And we also highlight that intensity of mobility decline during the pandemic is very strong, but we only see a very slow recovery after the more severe period in China. And although the change in terms of the extent or magnitude of mobility change or the direction of mobility change vary across provinces and cities. So only 12 cities we see very severe affected, but the majority of cities actually were slightly affected by the COVID-19. So of course, there were many limitations from this study, but I would stop here so we can discuss a little bit more about that. Yes, that's all. Thank you.